Why is Kenya a key focus for African School of Governance, and what youth leadership challenges does it face?
Kenya is very important because the ASG is a Pan-African university. So we want students, I'm actually here in Kenya as part of an Africa tour that we are doing right now. We've gone to Nigeria, we have gone to Cote d'Ivoire, we've gone to Egypt, we've gone to Mozambique, and now we're in Kenya. So we are trying to recruit students for our Master of Public Administration, our MPA program, which is our flagship program, and also to interest governments and companies in our executive education programs, which are short-term programs, short courses of 3 days, 1 week, maximum 2 weeks. So we have the master's degree program and we have the executive courses that are short-term. And of course, Kenya being the capital of East Africa, so we cannot not come to Kenya.
Why should young Africans care about governance, and what role can they play in shaping it?
Well, because governance is what determines the destiny of any people. Leadership and governance are the biggest determinants of social progress and economic progress. And so a lot of young Africans, millions of people, we have a continent of 1.3 billion people. 70% of them are young people. Yes. And so whether they're governed well or badly, whether they're governed effectively or ineffectively, matters for their future in terms of whether they can have jobs, whether they can start businesses and have an enabling environment, whether there can be peace and security in the continent. All these things are consequences of governance.
What does transformative leadership look like to youth in 2025, and how can ASG help develop it?
Well, transformative leadership is purpose-driven. It has a purpose, it has a mission, to change the lives of people or any entity or any family or any group. Leadership is not only formal positions of authority. You can lead in a group of friends, you can lead in your church, in your community, in your mosque. There are many dimensions of leadership. But transformative leadership always wants to take a group of people from this point to a higher point that is measurable. That's what transformative leadership looks like. It's purpose-driven, it's ambitious, it can take risks, but carefully managed risks, and it's ethical also.
How can education systems like ASGs empower youth to become ethical, impactful leaders?
Because we teach them that at ASG, unlike a lot of other institutions that will focus mostly on the knowledge, the skills, but ASG adds another layer, which is what distinguishes us, and that is the mindset factor. We have to train people for a new and different mindset of leadership, and that means it's ethical, it's servant-driven, servant-oriented leadership. But we have to teach it. If we don't teach people that development begins in the mind and that leadership transformations begin in the mind, they may not realize that.
As a man thinketh.
As a man thinketh, so is he or she.
Do young Africans have real influence in government, or are they included just symbolically?
There is leadership in Africa, but there is not enough of good leadership in Africa. That's the problem the continent has. The continent has a lot of politicians, a lot of people who are in power, a lot of governments, but not as much governance.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's about
There's a very big difference between politics and governance. And many African politicians are focused on politics, gaining power, using it, benefiting from it. They are not focused on governance that can transform their countries. ASG will train young professionals and even the current leaders through executive education. Younger professionals through the master's degree program will train people on the specific skills of governance.
What does reimagined leadership look like in the age of influencers and digital platforms?
It's not a small challenge when you have influencers on social media platforms. Social media has changed the way a lot of things happen. So leadership has to be authentic. We have to teach our youth that the fact that somebody is an influencer does not mean you have to follow him if he's not influencing you correctly. Hey, so you have to measure the influence any influencer is having on you. If it's positive, go along. If it's negative, don't waste your time.
Is ethical leadership possible in corrupt systems, and how can youth push back against the norm?
Ethical leadership is possible in corrupt systems.
Especially in like Africa.
Yes, Africa faces a lot of problems of corruption. It's not unique to Africa. There's corruption everywhere in the world. The problem is just that in Africa, the scale, in some countries, corruption walks on 4 legs. So how do you tackle this?
Yeah.
The one way is what we're trying to do at ASG, to teach people ethical leadership and create incentives for people to lead ethically. Another way to overcome it is to push for accountability, and this is where the voice of Africa's young people comes up. If enough millions of young people rise up in protest against corruption and corrupt leadership or failed leaderships, it will have consequences. You may not achieve that consequence in one day, but over time, you will begin to see some changes. So accountability, we have to push for accountability. That when people commit acts of corruption, they must pay for it. In China, the reason people behave themselves in advanced countries is not because they are better than Africans. Yes. They are not better than Africans. Yes. Human beings have certain natural tendencies. Yes. What forces them to comply is the fact that they know that they will be accountable. They may go to prison. In some countries, you may face death.
Yes, that makes sense.
And then, of course, leadership by example is very important.
How will ASG work with Kenyan institutions and ensure inclusive, locally tailored governance training?
Well, today we met with the Cabinet Secretary for Education. We met with him. We met with the PS for communications. And so we have already started concrete discussions with Kenyan government officials about collaborations between ASG and the government of Kenya, whereby, first of all, we want Kenyans to apply for the MPA program.
Yes.
And we also want to be in a position to provide executive education, short courses to Kenyan officials and public sector leaders and private sector as well.
What should students from other African countries expect when they come to Rwanda?
Yes, no. The environment in Rwanda is very, very appealing. Yes. There are lots of young people. Yes. It's a very secure country. Okay. People are safe. A lady can walk at night alone in Rwanda and feel comfortable, let alone a man. So security is quite strong. It's a stable and secure country. There is quite some good examples of effective governance in Rwanda. So it's a very good place to be. It's a good place to be located, for ASG to be located.
Why will a student have opportunities elsewhere want to come to study at ASG?
The first is that at ASG, you will study, within an Africa-specific context that equips you to address African challenges. You may go to other foreign places, you learn a lot of theories and concepts, but they're not applicable to the situation inside African countries. So this is a very big distinguishing factor of ASG. 2, you will walk away after 2 years at ASG with a different mindset. That makes you a much more superior leader. 3, ASG will teach you, that you are to take pride in being an African, and that we will to drive an African narrative to the world about what is great and good about Africa, not just about what is bad. ASG will be a network of very, very influential people in the continent. It was founded by heads of state, the current president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, the former prime minister of Ethiopia, Haile Mariam Desalegn. So the level is high already, and therefore many leaders will gravitate towards ASG. So when you go through ASG, you become part of a network. 10 years from now, the question will be, did you go to ASG or not?
Does ASG have specific solutions for different African countries?
Well, there will be general, courses and in those courses we will have case studies of specific countries, of course. So that way they're relevant. We'll study some case studies from Kenya, some from other countries as well. Because it's not only one country that will be coming to ASG, it's the whole of Africa. Yeah.
What are the tuition fees for ASG?
Tuition fee of ASG is $15,000 a year, which is very, very moderate compared to what Africans pay to go and study at Harvard, about $80,000 a year, or Oxford, about $60,000 a year. So ASG will offer you much better value for money. We also have scholarships, so that even money should not stop anybody who is interested from applying. But first you must apply. Then you must be admitted. Then if you need a scholarship, you apply for it. You cannot win the lottery if you don't buy the ticket.